All right, it says I'm live. I'll give it a second here to catch up. Usually it takes a minute as soon as I click live for it to actually start recording. There we go. I forgot to hit mute. Give me a second, guys. All right, cool. I gotta go. Good to see you here too. Anyways, yeah. So the title says it best. What I'm going to talk about today is this is basically going to be a an anti-NRA and an anti-Fudd stream. So again, I'm going to talk about guns again soon enough, but it's just hard to really sit and talk about guns right now in and of themselves too much because they just don't seem that important, you know. I mean, guns are nice, and of course it's an important part, but is it really about the guns itself? You know, that's what I want to ask you guys. Are we really, you know, the gun community? Is the gun community even a thing, right? And if it is, does it even matter? Like, does it even matter if you like guns themselves? Like, if you like this, okay, cool. It's awesome. But is just liking this going to be enough to where not only you can keep this, but where your children, your grandchildren, or any other, you know, free American can have these? So to me, it's more important that we can preserve our liberty. And then once we have our liberty, which I think these are a big part of keeping our liberty, right? But once we have liberty, then we can enjoy the little things in life, like hobbies and, you know, going shooting with people and just sitting there talking about, you know, specifics with guns. So, yeah, you know, I'm going to talk about gun rights again tonight. And how do you not talk about, you know, how do you talk about gun rights without bringing up the NRA? Well, it's pretty hard, right? So a lot of people, their version of being, you know, a gun channel is to promote the NRA and to say, hey, look, we need to stand with the NRA. We need to change the NRA. And no, not in my opinion. I don't care for the NRA whatsoever. And what inspired me to do this tonight is I was in another stream last night, a popular stream that's on, you know, on Tuesday nights. And all they were talking about the whole night was pro NRA, support the NRA no matter what. And, you know, and I said, no, guys, I don't think so. You know, I'm going to support gun rights. And if the NRA is compromising our gun rights away, and there's other organizations that aren't compromising our gun rights away, that's who I'm going to support. And, you know, some people didn't agree with me and they kind of called me out, which is fine. You know, and anyone that's watching this can call me out tonight. Not a problem, you know. But I said, you know what? After listening to all this crap and all this FUD talk, I'm going to call out the NRA tonight. I'm going to do a stream. Basically, with all the stuff that was going on last night in this other stream, supporting the NRA, talking about compromising our rights away, talking about people that are anti-gun under our wing and trying to get them to join us. I said, nah, I'm sorry, guys, but I can't agree with you. And furthermore, I'm going to do an anti-NRA stream tomorrow, just kind of as a little bit of a rebuttal. So, you know, there's people that want to look at this different ways, and that's fine. But to me, nah, I'm not going to sit there and support an organization that is currently, as we speak, compromising with our gun rights, who's currently, as we speak, supporting gun control, and actually has been supporting gun control for, about 150 years, by the way. So, yeah, I'm going to call out the NRA and all the FUDs that seem to like this whole middle of the road approach where, well, if we can make friends with them, if we can, you know, plant a seed and watch it grow eventually. Watch what grow? You know what I'm saying? If you plant a bad seed, it's either going to not grow at all, or if it does, it's going to grow into something kind of awful, right? So I don't really subscribe to that. And I thought, well, I'm going to call out the NRA. And like I usually do, I have some articles here that I'm going to, you know, kind of read excerpts from and opine on. So Let's see who else has hopped in before I get started. Okay, Uncle Dan stopped in to say hi. He's got to be somewhere else. Just wanted to say keep up the good work. All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Brastard, if you're up against unregistered civilian ownership of various types of artillery, you're a Fudd. I agree, man. We've got, let's see here. GameCuber7, found out about you through Legally Armed America's channel. Thanks for the positive comments. Oh, not a problem, man. Happy to see you. And I've talked about Paul Galasco and Legally Armed America several times in here. I like his channel a lot. I think he's a hell of a guy. So, yeah, I'm happy to see anyone in here that's, you know, in the Legally Armed America chats. Kingpin's here. How's it going, man? Cave Dave, what's up, man? Glad to see you. You went AWOL on us last time, Cave. Towards the end of the stream, I was like, Mateo, where's Cave Dave? Find him. Is he okay? Anyways, yeah, so basically the NRA, right? Here's the deal. I'm just going to start off real quick, kind of going through the history of the NRA, saying that, yeah, unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately because it sucks, many of us in the past have supported the NRA. Some still may. But we've liked to think over the years that they're a completely pro-gun organization that's pro-gun rights and is going to basically stand up for what the Second Amendment says, which is shall not be infringed, right? Like, period. That's what it says. And I've been told recently, you know, shall not be infringed can mean different things to different people. But what I'm going to talk about right now is my version of it. And again, if you guys have positive stuff or negative stuff, go ahead. You know, saying here what you feel about it. But I think shall not be infringed literally means shall not be infringed. So an infringement means when you encroach upon a certain barrier or border that would outline something. So to me, if this sheet of paper is our Second Amendment, if you come into here even this much, you are now infringing upon the space of this piece of paper. Now, if I take this and come in just this much, you're still infringing. So I just want to let you guys know right off the bat what I believe, you know, infringement means. I literally believe it means what it means. It doesn't mean that if we can still own shotguns or we can still own a couple guns, but everything else is gone, that it's infringed. No, it takes much less than that to infringe on the Second Amendment. And I'll show you an infringement right now. See this gun right here? AMD 65. This is a completely legal Title I firearm. Even if it was a short-barreled rifle and fell under the purview of the National Firearms Act, it would still be legal, providing conditions that I paid a tax of $200, which, by the way, isn't that illegal to tax a right? But humor me, you can pay $200. But you know what? To keep this a legal firearm under Title I, meaning no tax stamp, they had to pen and weld with a pen on the bottom here, a blind pen and a weld, to weld this barrel extension on to this 12.5-inch barrel to make it a 16-inch barrel. Now, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to pin and weld this on here? Reason being would be an infringement upon my Second Amendment. Because the Second Amendment doesn't say how long my barrel can be. It doesn't say, hey, you have to make your barrel a certain length so it's more maneuverable and it's less to your liking. No, they don't. It doesn't say that, right? Well, I'll tell you who said this. I'll tell you one of the main groups that's responsible for me having to weld this extension onto my barrel of my AMD 65. And it's none other than the NRA. So with that, I'm going to get into a brief history, okay? So this comes from Time Magazine. So I'm not cherry picking right now. I'm not going to, really conservative sites to find my information here. I'm not going to, really pro-gun websites. This is Time Magazine, right? Which that's not a pro-gun organization or news organization. So they basically say, excuse me, guys, my throat's a little dry here. It basically says, let me just start off right at the beginning of this article. This is an article from Time Magazine, and it says, on May 20th, 2000, the the legendary actor and president of the National Rifle Association, Charlton Heston, stood before the podium at the organization's 129th annual convention with a banner raised behind him featuring the American flag and the words "Vote Freedom." As he concluded his address, Heston picked up a replica of a flintlock rifle, raised it over his head, and declared, in his own dramatic fashion, that anyone who wanted to take his gun would have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. Well, I would note he picked up a flintlock, okay? So I don't know what he was really proving there. As much as a lot of us think that was a great moment for gun rights, how is that a great moment when half the time the anti-gun argument is, hey, the Second Amendment only applies to muskets. So right on the brink of the 21st century, we had a guy that's supposedly the head of the biggest pro-gun organization saying, you can take this from my cold, dead hands, and he was holding up a flintlock musket. Humor me here, not even a percussion cap, okay? No, a flintlock. So, yeah, that's what the Second Amendment's all about, right? Is the fact that arms only means a flintlock? Well, if that's the case, then how does the internet apply to free speech, right? How do telephones apply to free speech? How does anything that wasn't on the original Ben Franklin printing press, right? So you guys get my point. So he raised a musket up, one of the most antiquated designs in weaponry, and said, you can take this from my cold, dead hands. Okay, whatever. And then it says, this iconic moment has come to define the NRA, which is now America's leading pro-gun advocacy group, as the group frames things in a new ad campaign. Gun control laws and politicians who support them are seen as unconstitutional intrusion on the Second Amendment right to bear arms. So this is what the NRA was doing themselves. But the NRA's opposition to gun control, however, is only a few decades, according to Adam Winkler, author of the book Gunfight, The Battle Over the Right to Bear Arms in America. Historically, writes Winkler, the leadership of the NRA was more open-minded about gun control than someone familiar with the modern NRA might imagine. Well, this is where they're wrong, because it's funny. All the other people, they think that the NRA is actually pro-gun. That's what's so crazy about this. But I'll go on. Not only did the NRA support gun control for much of the 20th century, its leadership, in fact, lobbied for and co-authored gun control legislation. When the NRA was founded by two Union Civil War veterans and a former New York Times reporter in 1871, its purpose was to help improve the marksmanship of urban Northerners whose inferiority to the superior marksmanship of their rural Southern counterparts was believed to have prolonged the war. During this time, the Second Amendment was not the association's central platform. Displayed at the NRA's national headquarters was the motto, firearm safety, education, marksmanship training, shooting for recreation. The association was granted a charter and received $25,000 from New York State to purchase a firing range. It also maintained a long-standing relation with the U.S. military, receiving surplus guns and sponsorships for shooting contests. In the 1920s, the National Revolver Association, the arm of the NRA responsible for handgun training, proposed regulations later adopted by 9 states, requiring a permit to carry a concealed weapon, 5 years additional prison time if the gun was used in a crime, which we still have both of those, right? A ban on gun sales to non-citizens, a 1-day waiting period between the purchase and receipt of a gun, and that the record of gun sales be made available to police. So this is in the 1920s, 100 years ago. The NRA started off with permits required for carrying, okay? Additional prison time if a gun was used in a crime. Yeah, because that really matters, right? So if you lost a loved one due to violence, do you really care if they were killed with hands or feet or a stone or a gun? Does it even matter at that point? It doesn't matter. You know, so we're adding an extra 5 years prison time if the gun was used in a crime. That's just demonizing guns, guys. Murder is murder. Murder is terrible. Should someone, I believe in capital punishment, by the way. If somebody's literally convicted of actual murder and it's not a justifiable, homicide, if they're not using it in defense, if someone actually commits literal murder, I think we should just execute them. That's my personal beliefs. But still, so they demonized guns by adding extra time on. Okay. And a 1-day waiting period between the purchase and receipt of a gun. Now, this reminds me of something. In the 1920s, they proposed regulations that you would have to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Now, remember how I've talked about before how the NRA will get rid of your rights and then they'll try to sell them back to you? This is the perfect example, because now 100 years after they started this whole permitting system that varied state by state, right? Now 100 years later, the NRA is trying to say, well, we support reciprocity, where people can carry through all 50 states. And we need your donations. And the more you donate to us, the NRA, the more likely we are going to be able to do this reciprocity and get rid of all these individual state laws that require these different permits, right? You guys see my point here? Negotiating our rights away, scaring us to donate more money because we just lost rights, and then now trying to sell them back to us. 100 years later, they're begging, they're pleading, they're groveling. They send us letters in the mail. They call us 10 times a week. I get a call more than once a day from the NRA. I get stuff in the mailbox more than once a week from them saying, we need money, we need money. Reciprocity is never going to get through if you don't give us more money. You need my money for reciprocity? Then why the hell is it that we only have this conundrum we're in? Because your sorry asses are the ones that lobbied for and got these laws enacted to begin with. So this is 100 years ago, and this is where their BS started. All right, let me go on here. The 1930s, crime spree of Prohibition era, which still summons images of outlaws outfitted with machine guns, prompted President Franklin Roosevelt to make gun control a feature of the New Deal. Does that sound about right to you guys? New Deal, socialism, social welfare, social reform, oh, and gun control. Look at our current socialist people that are running. Bernie Sanders, socialist, gun control. Kamala Harris, socialist, gun control. It keeps going, doesn't it, guys? Couldn't help it. I couldn't help. That one was too far right in front of my face to ignore. But anyway, so in the 1930s, when our government started becoming more socialist, of course we had to have gun control, right? And then it said the NRA assisted Roosevelt in drafting the 1934 National Firearms Act and the 1938 Gun Control Act, the first federal gun control laws. Okay? The NRA assisted Roosevelt in drafting the 1934 NFA and the 1938 GCA, the first federal gun control laws. So hold on a minute. We had to leave. Okay, so we had a country here that had no federal gun control laws, right? As it should be, because it does say shall not be infringed. Then there's this gun rights organization that's formed. Okay, but we don't have any gun control laws. So what's the very freaking first gun control law our country had was written, because that's what drafting means, right? Obviously writing. So they wrote the first gun control law that our country's ever had, and that is still on the books to this day. And right back to my first analogy. The reason that I have to pin and weld this muzzle brake onto this gun, which is an inanimate object and won't hurt anybody, and since it's in my hands, it's not going to hurt anybody because I don't want to hurt people. So I have to pin this on here, right? Because of a law, which was in fact the first gun control law. The first gun control law in this great country's history, written by the National Firearms Association. Not just that they supported it, but they wrote it. That's why when people ask me, how's the NRA anti-gun? What have they supported that was anti-gun? Support it? That's just scratching the surface. They literally wrote the damn laws from the very beginning. So, and it basically explains here, you guys already know what this means, but it says, these laws place heavy taxes and regulation requirements on firearms that were associated with crimes such as machine guns, sawed-off shotguns, and silencers. Gun sellers and owners were required to register with the federal government, and felons were banned from owning weapons. Okay. Not only was the legislation unanimously upheld by the Supreme Court in 1939, but Carl T. Frederick, the president of the NRA, testified before Congress stating, I have never believed in the general practice of carrying weapons. I do not believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses. That was the president of the NRA that said that to Congress to reaffirm and to double down on this National Firearms Act that his organization wrote. So hold on a minute. What if I were to lie to you guys, which I wouldn't do, but let's just pretend I didn't just read that. What if I said, "Hey guys, here's a quote from Dianne Feinstein today." And Dianne Feinstein just said, "I have never believed in the general practice of carrying weapons. I do not believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses." If I told you guys Dianne Feinstein just said that today, it'd be believable, right? Like, I would totally believe it. Nope. This was the president of the NRA at that time that said that. Okay, for the next 30 years, the NRA continued to support gun control. By the late 1960s, a shift in the NRA platform was on the horizon. On November 22nd, 63, President JFK was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. He shot the president with an Italian military surplus rifle, purchased from an NRA mail-order advertisement. NRA Executive Vice President Franklin Orth agreed at a congressional hearing that mail-order sales should be banned, stating, "We do not think any sane American who calls himself an American can object to placing into this bill the instrument which killed the President of the United States." So, because a messed up person, well, in the JFK thing, it's really complicated. I don't think it's as simple as just saying a person, but let's just humor me here to get through this. I don't want to get into a JFK conspiracy, right? Or I could be on for like weeks or months or years. But so because some person that was really bad that chose to kill somebody, now we have the NRA coming out saying, "We do not think any sane American who calls himself an American can object to placing into this bill the instrument which killed the president." So that would imply you're insane if you believe that they restrict the manner in which you could buy a gun, right? Because we can't buy one with a mail order catalog now, right? Because of the Gun Control Act that was placed. But people who actually kill people on a regular basis and actually are murderers, they buy guns in back alleys all the time, which is much quicker and much easier than buying it from a mail order catalog, right? But nope, the NRA is the one that prompted that. Now, then it says, the NRA also supported California's Mulford Act of 1967, which banned carrying loaded weapons in public. Yet again, the NRA, another one, from carrying loaded weapons in public. I mean, this is literally insane. All right. Now we've got the summer riots of 1967 and assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy in 1968 prompted Congress to reenact a version of the FDR-era gun control laws as the Gun Control Act of 1968. The act updated the law to include minimum age and serial number requirements and extend the gun ban to include the mentally ill and drug addicts. In addition, it restricted the shipping of guns across state lines to collectors and federally licensed dealers, and certain types of bullets could only be purchased with a show of ID. And then it said the NRA, so the NRA let all of that slide, but then they said they blocked the most stringent part, which would have been a national registry of all guns and license for all gun carriers. So at that point, the NRA said, "Hey, we'll compromise just a little bit," right? So the NRA let all of the 10 things go through and supported that, but then they were the heroes because they did block the registry portion and the license for all gun carriers. So I've gone from the 20s to the 1960s, right? Now, let's fast forward to 1986. We had a bill that was put up by Congress. It was passed by both chambers of the Congress in 1986 called the Firearms Owners Protection Act, which in its essence was going to be a pro-gun bill. And what it was going to do is allow many different provisions, but one of the key provisions that actually is a good thing was it allowed you to freely travel throughout the country with your firearms. So if you were going to be driving through an area, okay, which you weren't allowed to have a certain gun, as long as you were just passing through and didn't stop, like hang out there for lack of a better word, you could just pass on through to another place where you were allowed to have firearms, and like 10 other little teeny things that were kind of, good. Now, one of the Democrats at the time that was anti-gun, by the name of Hughes, he put in what's called a poison pill amendment. And he said, I'm going to put this in there that's so anti-gun, and it's going to, by all means, just in and of itself, it's going to cancel out all of the good so much that by being there, the Democrats putting it in there, the Republicans are going to vote no on it, or the president itself won't sign it. Reagan's not going to sign this, because at that time, Reagan was still pretending to be pro-gun. And what that did, the Hughes Amendment, is that banned machine guns and said there'll be a grandfathering portion where anything owned up until 86 that was registered can be grandfathered in. But after 86, the machine gun registry's closed, right? So came to the president's desk. President still wanted to appear to be pro-gun at that point because he wanted his vice president to win the next election. And he said, well, I can't sign this. This is an anti-gun bill now. And the NRA said, no. Just sign it. Sign the legislation. The machine gun ban portion is unconstitutional. We'll fight it all the way up to the high court. We guarantee you we're going to win. So just sign it so we can get the good things, and we'll take care of the bad. Well, the NRA never sued, never did anything. And to this day, the cheapest machine gun you can buy, functional machine gun, is about $5-6 grand, all the way up to where an M16 or an AK is about $30,000 because of this. That the NRA said, don't worry, let it slide and we'll have your back. So in 86, the NRA was still up to no good. Okay, let's go to 1994. 1994, we had Bill Clinton's so-called crime bill. Well, in the crime bill, he said he wanted a bunch of things, which included the Brady bill portion, which was the background checks. Okay, and then, the waiting period and the background checks. And then they also had the assault weapons ban. Well, what did the NRA do? They fought diligently for our gun rights there, right? Nope. If you thought that, you were wrong again. What the NRA did during that portion is they said, well, look, we're going to compromise. Well, like we always say, compromise means both sides get something. So if they were truly compromising, they could have said, hey, look, we'll let this Brady bill slide through. We will humor me here, guys. I wouldn't want any of this. We'll let the assault weapons ban slide through, but you're going to give us machine guns back, and we're going to repeal the NFA. That would have been a compromise. But no. The compromise, the way the NRA does it and what other people do it, means this. You want to take all of our guns, so we'll compromise with you, and we'll only let you take half of them. And then once you take half of them, we're going to freak out, scream bloody murder, and say, oh my gosh, we just let them take half your guns. The only way you can get, prevent from losing the other half is so that we can, the only way that you think you can keep them from getting the other half is to donate more money, join the NRA, up your membership, lifetime membership, endowed membership. Doesn't matter what membership level you buy, guys, they always want more money. Why? Because holy crap, they just took half your guns that we gave them, and now we're going to prevent them from taking the rest. We promise if you just give us more money. So they did nothing different in 1994. In 94, they said, look, we'll compromise. We'll give you the assault weapons ban, and we won't oppose it, but you have to put in a 10-year sunset to give it a chance for the political mood to change. You know what that 10 years was? That was like if you find an up-and-coming company, and you just know that in 10 years they're going to be booming. You buy some stock in it, right? And just watch it grow. So that 10-year sunset, you know what that was all about? That was those whole 10 years the NRA did nothing but flood people, inundate their members, recruit. They wanted every last penny and your firstborn during those 10 years. You know why? Because they could print in all their propaganda, they could say, look, they just took your guns, people. They just literally went after all of your assault weapons. And it actually happened. Now, lucky for us, we have a second chance here. So if more people join the NRA, you donate more and more money, there's a possibility of a sunset in 10 years. If the NRA had just killed the bill to begin with, then why the hell would you need to join the NRA? Because if there's not gun control going on, and they're not currently taking things, and they're not threatening to take more things, then you're not scared. And what's the best way to get money from people? To scare the living crap out of them. I mean, look at here. When you're worried that you're sick or that you could die, you'll pay any amount of money for medical treatment. But if you look at it in a vacuum, medical treatment's a racket and the prices are insane, but you do it because you're scared, right? Which that's worth it. I get it. Of course, your life's worth more than anything. Of course, you pay the high bills to get the medication you need if you're sick. Well, it's no different here. It's no different here. They put on a proposed sickness and make it where, hey, look, they tried to take all your guns, people. We were able to fend them off, and we only endorsed them taking all your assault weapons for 10 years. But if you don't want them to do it for the next 100 years, more people need to join the NRA, and they need more money. And this is all documented stuff. You guys can look up everything I've said. So anyways, the NRA went on to support the Brady bill. They supported the background checks. They supported the waiting period. And they supported the actual assault weapons ban, meaning they said they'd let it slide if it had a sunset provision in 10 years, which, by the way, they made record amounts of money in those 10 years. And if you look at the size the NRA grew in those 10 years, okay, astronomical. If you look at the salaries of their executives during that time, insane. Up to the point where we have like Chris Cox and Wayne LaPierre right now making millions and millions of dollars per year. I think Wayne LaPierre makes $5 or $6 million. And if we hadn't had the assault weapons ban that they capitulated to, they wouldn't have been able to make as much money, okay? So, 94. So I started off in 1871, right? They've been at it all the way from 94. Okay, guys, maybe they changed, right? That was the last century. So I'm way off, right, guys? 1920s, who cares? Well, I do, because these laws that were enacted in the 20s and 30s are still going on all the way into the 90s. And most of us in here lived through the assault weapons ban. Let me show you carry over the assault weapons ban, right? I just showed you guys the National Firearms Act, alive and well today. Give me 1 second here, and I'll show you the assault weapons ban. In fact, I'll show you 2 examples. Hold on. Okay, 1994 assault weapons ban. 1989 ban, specifically with this one, which, by the way, NRA also supported. Here's an example, guys, of an assault weapons ban era gun. This particular gun brought in around 94. This is an SKS that has the ability to take an AK mag. Okay? Now, SKSs luckily don't have this, but humor me, no threaded barrel. So even if this would have been an AK at the time, no threaded barrel, no bayonet lug, no pistol grip allowed. So you end up with this thumb hole sporter stock. And I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but this came with a small little hunting magazine, right? About yay long. Assault weapons ban. I'll give you another quick example of the assault weapons ban. I have another one right here, a ban era handgun. Now look, guys, I have 2 of the same pistol here. Okay, these are Hungarian P9Rs. This one was imported before the assault weapons ban. Okay, and it has 15-round magazine. Okay. This is the same model handgun, was imported during the assault weapons ban. At first, this looks like a 15-round mag, except for you'll notice it's not all steel. See this plastic insert? Now look at that indentation in there. It's hard to really show, but see that? This is a limited to 10 rounds, 15-round magazine. Assault weapons ban. So for people that say, oh, that was a long time ago, 1994 to 2004. What's wrong with you? I just showed you two guns that are at arm's reach, where my guns are compromised just due to when they were manufactured. And this just didn't apply to imports, if you guys remember. Domestic firearms, same thing. Except for law enforcement, they've always been exempt. Okay, 94. I'm still in the last century. Let me get with it, guys. So, let me show you this. Because I'm a life member, I still get this crap in the mail. I've called them so many times to say, I renounce, I'm done. Stop calling me. They keep calling me. They keep sending me this. I still get this crap, okay? Well, look at right here. While it's here, this is the newest issue. Look at these guys. You remember this? You remember a couple of years ago when this one right here? See this guy, Blondie? Him, yeah. He said, as he was endorsed by the NRA, with these two guys standing proud next to him, he said, your 8-year assault on the Second Amendment is over. While I'm president, your Second Amendment is safe. That's what he said. Well, until he got talking with the NRA, because the NRA made him believe that, hey, if you get our support, you get the gun vote. Now, Trump being a populist and not quite the most pro-gun guy, but let's just say he'll pretend to be pro-gun enough to get our vote. Now, this isn't a total knock on Trump's presidency, guys. I'm just talking about this one issue. Many things Trump's doing, great president. I always have to say that disclaimer. Many things he's doing, I agree with. Most, but when it comes to guns, let's just call it what it is. So these two guys right here got in Mr. Trump's ear, and they said, well, hold on a minute. There's plenty of big money to be made by getting some gun control going. So we need to do something here. So right after the NRA endorsed him, and he said, you know, your Second Amendment safe with me. Then he got in there, and he was having a meeting with Feinstein and others, and even she looked at him like, and he said, hey, I say let's take the guns quick. Like, you know, take the guns first, due process later. Which ended up being basically red flag laws, right? Well, look at these two guys. Okay? Let's get back to them again. Red flag laws. So now I'm talking like 2018. So we're no longer in the last century, even though we started there 2 centuries ago, 1800s, 1920s, 30s, 40s, 60s, 80s, 90s, 2018. And there's many small things I'm missing here. So I've got an article here from NPR. I'm totally trying to find like not, you know, preaching to the choir type publications here, guys. NPR. I don't think they're conservative, right? So they said NRA signals openness to gun removal laws with conditions. Sounds like a compromise. It says lately the NRA has relied heavily on videos to communicate with the public and its supporters. That's how it announced its position on to temporarily remove guns from people thought to pose a threat. Isn't that interesting the way they word that? Not anyone that actually is a threat, just thought to propose a threat. I quote, we need to stop dangerous people before they act, says Chris W. Cox, executive director of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. Quote, so Congress should provide funding to states who adopt risk protection orders. Doesn't it sound an awfully lot like what I just said when Trump said, like, take the guns quick, like, take them first, due process later? And then this guy says we need to stop dangerous people before they act? Now, does that even sound right? So can you guys imagine this? Let's look at something that's not even protected by a specific amendment. Now, the Constitution gives us the freedom to freely move about the country. Got it. But it doesn't technically tell us, like, you have the right to go to own a Camaro that can go 100 miles an hour. Does it? No. But we can have that in this country, as we should be able to, obviously. So let's just say you're sitting there in your driveway and you're warming up your Camaro. You're not doing burnouts or nothing. You're just warming it up on a cold Michigan day like today. And you're getting ready to leave your driveway. Well, a cop's driving through the neighborhood. He pulls in behind you, lights up the red, white, and blue, and says, hold on, son. I'm going to have to take that Camaro from you. And you're like, well, why the heck would you do that? It's not stolen. Here's my paperwork. I know. It's totally legal. You're a legal car owner. But you know how fast that car can go? Well, yeah, officer, it can go 140 miles an hour. Yeah, and the speed limit's 25. So since you have a car that can speed, we're going to take it from you because we have to stop the speeding before it could happen. Could you guys imagine that story? Yeah, do imagine it, because you know what? Once they take our guns, what is it that they can't take? Because it says right here, according to Chris Cox, the executive director of the ILA, meaning this is second honcho in charge, basically besides LaPierre, and it says, we need to stop dangerous people before they act. 2018, NRA. So Congress should provide funding to states to adopt risk protection orders, which that's the politically correct speak of red flag law, because red flag law doesn't sound good. So they call it a risk protection order. 2018. And it says gun control groups have assumed the NRA opposes such laws, which are often referred to generically as red flag laws. So hold on a minute. The gun controllers assumed the NRA would oppose this, but they were pleasantly surprised now. So here's another quote. The NRA has put out press releases about red flag laws, calling them firearms surrender bills, which is completely inaccurate and incendiary rhetoric, says Shannon Watts, founder of Moms Demand Action, affiliated with every town of gun safety. Well, let me add you guys some background on that. What she was referring to is there had been a red flag law in California that the NRA had opposed because they didn't like the exact conditions on it, right? So same thing as they always do. California's trying to pass a red flag law. We need more memberships. We need more dues, more fundraisers, more dinners, more raffles, more everything, right? Which I've been to the raffles, guys. I've been to the dinners. So don't think I'm preaching down to anyone who's really a member for many, many years, life member. So I'll point the finger right at myself. I've been guilty in the past, but you know what? If you were guilty of something and didn't know about it, yeah, shame on you to a point for being ignorant. But you don't have to double down. You can correct yourself, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm here to talk about right now. Okay? So just because you guys have been an NRA member in the past, or you still are, I'm not talking down to you any worse than I could myself, okay? I just want to make that clear, guys. I've been to the dinners, bought the tickets, all of it. Bid on auctions for their guns. Trust me, all of it. Had their bumper stickers on my car, wore the hat, carried the duffel bag. I get it. I didn't educate myself enough about this because this is nothing new. It's been going on since the 1800s through the whole 20th century and into the 21st century. So the NRA pretended to be against red flag bills at one point in time, which is what this Moms Demand Action founder is calling them out on. So then she goes back to say, so if the NRA now supports such bills, it would represent a big change. Well, you know what? I hate to say this, but this Shannon Watts, who you guys have all probably heard of, she's actually being very observant here. She's basically calling him out on the same thing I am, because she's even noticing, and she's the enemy. She's no friend of ours. I'm just saying, even though she's the enemy, she happens to be right here. She's noticing that they wax and wane on this stuff, you know? They're against something, but they supported it first. Or they were first against something, but now they support it. It's this back and forth circle, guys. And that's where I always like to sum it up and say, look, the NRA will sell your rights away and then try to sell them back to you later. And again, that's what's going on here. And then another quote from Shannon Watts says, I suspect this is an attempt by the NRA to look moderate. But the devil's in the details, Watts says. She says the test is whether the NRA will continue to work against state red flag bills. Well, I've seen them still supporting it as of right now. So, and this is like one of their big critics, this Shannon Watts. And trust me, I can't stand Shannon Watts. Okay, here's another one here. This is from the Everytown. So Everytown, that's a sister organization of the Moms Demand Action. So here's from their website. This is from about a year ago. It says, as reported yesterday by USA Today, the NRA has voiced conditional support for red flag laws. which empower law enforcement and immediate family members to petition a court to temporarily prohibit a person from having guns if they present red flags for violent behavior. Explaining the benefits of red flag laws in a video released last week, the NRA's chief lobbyist, Chris Cox, said this can prevent violent behavior before it becomes a tragedy. While this could be an important reversal from an organization that has spent years advocating against these policies. Here's my point, guys. These rabidly anti-gun groups are using quotes from the NRA ILA chief executive to support their cause. So there's this whole article here, how every town supports red flag bills and supports out and out gun confiscation, period, right? And they're quoting one of the top people in the NRA and using his quotes in support of their gun control. What the heck is wrong with this picture, guys? I mean, literally, you have an organization that's supposedly the foremost gun rights group, and the anti-gunners quote them to add more fuel to their fire? Now, this is really, really screwed up when I can't tell who's more anti-gun between Shannon Watts and Chris Cox. And the reason I can't tell the difference is because they're saying the same exact thing. But actually, Chris Cox is more dangerous because when he says it on behalf of 5 million supposed pro-gun people. And he says, I'm representing 5 million, quote, gun owners who want red flag laws. That actually carries a lot more weight in helping us to get red flag laws than someone who comes out against guns. So I'm sorry, the way I look at it, Chris Cox is more dangerous to getting red flag laws enacted than Shannon Watts, the head of Moms Demand Action. And there's one more I'm going to talk about in a second because I'm not done yet with the gun control the NRA currently supports as we speak. But I'm going to check the chat real quick, guys, because I've been talking for a while and I probably missed like 100 things here. Oh, let me scroll back. Looks like everyone loves the NRA in here. Okay, let's go back here. We've got yeah, GameCuber was saying he really likes my AKs and my videos explaining their traits and misconceptions. Great to spread awareness. I want to do more AK videos soon, guys. It's just hard because I can talk about these AKs and have a ton of fun and not do these hard streams. Like these streams aren't like the easiest ones to do in a way. I can do all just the fun gun ones, right? But then like maybe a couple years from now when I can't even have any of these, then we'll never get to talk about them again. So right now, with all the shit hitting the fan and like 15 anti-gun bills as we speak that are making their way through committees, I feel like I need to talk about this. But of course, I still love AKs and we'll talk about them again later. So I wanted to address his question, but you know, for all you guys. Peter Case says, well, divided we fall. And that reminds me of something I'm going to get at in a little bit here. Braster says a bunch of New Mexico counties claiming to be 2A sanctuary, but say only until the new laws are found to be constitutional in the courts. So they don't really mean it, like I thought all along. Yeah. Matt's offering me encouragement. Thank you. Shall not be infringed unless you whine you don't like that right. Then totally infringe. Yep. If you say, well, I don't like that right, well, then infringe on that one, right? Just because if you don't like it. Yep, you're right. Kingpin says shall not be infringed means don't mess with it. Exactly. Like, don't tread on me, right? Wow, that's crazy. Something GameCube was talking about something about Arizona requiring people to submit the DNA test. That's completely ludicrous, but I wouldn't be surprised on anything nowadays that they would want to do that. Let's see here. Mateo says they can have my gun when it's empty and I'm dead. Yeah, that's the whole saying, right? When they come for your guns, give them your bullets first. Thumbs down already. Huh. I already have my own troll? That's kind of flattering, isn't it? Well, that's the thing, guys. A lot of this supposed gun community is going to give us a thumbs down. But here's the interesting thing, guys. Are we the gun community? Not necessarily. Is the gun community and the Second Amendment community the same thing? I actually think not. I think it's two totally different communities. And some people may kind of be members of both. Some people may be kind of riding the line. But we're getting to a point now where, and this is what some other channels are talking about a lot lately that I adamantly disagree with, where they're trying to pretend that just because we all have something in common with each other, that we like guns, just because we own a gun, that we're all automatically the member of this quote community. And I don't think so. I'll get more onto that in a second. Where I think the quote gun community and the liberty-minded community are two completely separate things. And yes, people that like guns don't necessarily like liberty and don't necessarily like the Second Amendment always. Just like people that love liberty and the Second Amendment don't even have to own a gun. That's where I'm going to say they're two separate things. And that's where a lot of, quote, gun community people are going to hate me for saying this. But I don't care because this is how I feel about it. And whatever. Okay, let's see what else we got here. If you listen to anti-gunners, you think the NRA want us to have PKMs and RPGs. It's funny because I think it's kind of hilarious right now. And I think it's actually kind of cool in a way. All the anti-gunners, they're always after the NRA, right? Like all the pro-gun people and all the pro-Second Amendment people are all these NRA members, right? And they're always attacking the NRA. Well, the funny thing is they don't really know too much about these guys yet, right? Gun Owners of America. And this is the group that most of the true Second Amendment supporters are going to. Because there's a time in the future where these guys could get corrupt. There's a time I might be doing the anti-Gun Owners of America stream, but not right now. Right now, I've not seen them do anything yet, except for no compromise, shall not be infringed. So it's hilarious that these guys are actually doing the dirty work in Washington. They're putting the weight on their shoulders to try to help us save our Second Amendment while all the anti-gunners are bashing the NRA and the truly pro-gun people. When I say pro-gun, I mean pro-Second Amendment people. The true pro-Second Amendment people are also bashing the NRA. Isn't it kind of crazy? Oh, let me take a peek here, guys. Uncle Dan was back. I don't know if he's still back because this is from a half hour ago, but good to see you again. Who else popped in here? Mike J, how's it going? Glad you stopped in too. Ryan Fixer, what's up? Nice to see Orion here. Yeah, well-regulated militia, which means regulated at that time didn't mean like, you guys know this already, but I'm just saying, for anyone that doesn't, regulated at that time didn't mean, the word regulated in that context and what the word meant then didn't mean regulated like lots of regulations and restrictions. That's what it's synonymous with now. So when we say gun regulations, we mean like gun restrictions. No, regulated meant the complete opposite. It meant like a fit and fighting type militia. It meant that the militia must be properly armed and properly trained. That's what they meant by regulated. So an actual useful militia, an effective militia. So look at regulated as being organized and efficient more than restricted. Orion, that's a good one, man. NRA equals need revenue always. That is a good one. I like that one there. Shoot with Uncle Dan. The NRA can lick poo-poo. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, actually, there you go. Look at Stalin. And by Peter K., you know, it says Stalin, Hitler, Mao, no guns. And it was Mao that said, remember when I was reading those quotes a couple weeks back? Oh, political power comes from the barrel of a gun. Don't forget that. Man, same thing, Uncle Dan. About ready to start herding traders. I'm sorry. Well, herding or hunting, same difference in the end. Because last time I checked, treason is actually like a capital offense, right? Not that I'm a law enforcement officer, just saying. Yeah, like Bradford said, a moment of silence to remember the millions of innocent guns destroyed because of the NFA and the NRA, right? Because as we go through the history books here, we remember the NRA, NFA, yeah, they wrote it. So thanks, NRA. Mateo must have been reading my mind a half hour ago. Traitors should be hung or shot. What's up, Richard Hughes? How's it going, man? Yeah, like you said, can we ban Porsches because the Fast and Furious guy got killed in one? There you go, man. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Oh, man, and like what the left does to unborn babies, like shooting with Uncle Dan says, yeah, that's a whole nother stream in and of itself. Do I do hangouts? I've been in other people's hangouts before, and no, do I do them on my channel? No, but I've been on them on other channels. Maybe it's something I should think about. Yeah. Crack an eagle egg, 10 years in the pen. Kill a baby, the left calls it pro-choice. Richard Hughes was saying not a Hughes. Yeah, it was. It was a Hughes that wrote the Hughes Amendment. Hopefully, I'm not related to you, right? I'm sure he wasn't. Yeah, SwitchPod's right. When I get on a roll, I don't usually look at the comments because I guess self-explanatory. I'm on a roll. Might not make sense to you guys, but to me, it's making sense. I don't like to stop. Let's see here. What are we talking about here? Let's see. We're talking about Mateo said, plus the value of the ARs they owned was higher. The sunset devalued them. Yeah. When the NRA gave support for the bump stock ban and red flag laws. Oh, there's still one more I had to talk about, and he just alluded to it. Anyone have a count of bayonet deaths per year? That's a good question, Richard. If anyone has that, let us know, because you can't have that during the assault weapons ban. That's crazy. Drive-by bayonetings went down to nothing after that awesome legislation NRA ushered in. With Uncle Dan Cheeto, Jesus. Ooh, that's true. Like Mateo said, good thing Obama stopped the import of Garans. Otherwise, we would have more drive-by Garan shootings. And isn't that crazy how, they always want to ban, quote, military-style weapons. Isn't it great that our military can go and use our weapons to, like, quote, promote liberty throughout the whole world? But if we want to use those weapons ourselves here to promote liberty and freedom, nope, can't have them. I mean, we can go over there to the Suez Canal. We can go over there to all the corners of the Middle East. We can go to the North Pole to promote freedom there, right? For the polar bears. And that's all fine to promote freedom for anything and everything other than the American citizens. We can't have these guns because how dare us have any freedom or liberty? But yeah, we'll have our people go over there, our citizens, our brave men and women in uniform, right? They'll go over there with, quote, weapons of war to preserve freedom, civility. Supposedly, that's why we're over there, right? But then after they take off that uniform and go on into their civilian life, they can't own them anymore either. Isn't that kind of ironic? Go protect people in a third world country that chant death to America with a certain type of weapon, but you can't have it here in this country to promote these ideals that we're supposedly spreading all over the world. So world policeman is way more important than protecting your own backyard, your home, your family, and your cats and dogs, for lack of a better word. And I only say that because, trust me, you cross them on this NFA and crap like that, they do come and shoot your dog. Look at Ruby Ridge. Oh. Let's take a peek here. A couple more. Matt Morrison has a Rifle magazine from '89 that says, "Don't let them take your sporters." There you go. So they support a law that creates the sporter and then asks for more money so that they can't take the sporter. You guys get this? It's a perpetual loop. And that's why when people say, let's change the NRA, let's try to support it from within, you can't change the NRA. The NRA has a structure right now to where, yes, there's an elected board, there's a president of the board, there's all these dignitaries and famous people that sit on the board. I get that. And you can say, well, a life member or someone that I think's been an annual member for about, maybe it's 5 consecutive years, you get a vote. Okay, that's fine. Well, guess what, guys? They have elections in Cuba, okay? Saddam Hussein used to have elections every year. Hitler got elected. They all have elections, okay? Every oligarchy or tyrannical government always has elections. Who cares? Because you know why I mention all those types of regimes? The NRA is no different. We elect a board. Pete Brownell, who everyone believed was going to make a difference. And I believe he wanted to make a difference. And I believe Pete Brownell is pro-Second Amendment. I don't think he's just a gun guy. I think he's also pro-Second Amendment. You know why he left in such a hurry? Because he realized that the way the NRA's rules are structured, and I want you guys to know this, the board can unanimously vote to change something in the NRA or to tell the NRA they want them to have a different stance on something. And LaPierre and Chris Cox can veto everything they said every single time. It's not like, you know, in the United States Congress or in most states' legislatures where, yeah, the president or governor can veto, but then if enough people vote, it becomes veto proof. They can override the veto. No, the NRA doesn't have that provision. So humor me here. This isn't going to happen because there's a lot of Fudds in the NRA board too. But assume every single person in the whole NRA board was 100% pro-liberty, shall not be infringed, all of it. Perfect gun rights people, okay? And they all voted for something. All LaPierre can say, nope, nope. I want to try to, you know, do another assault weapons ban so we can print more articles like in '89 that said, don't let them take your sporter. And it wouldn't matter what any of these elected officials said. So again, this is an oligarchy. This is, I hate to say it, but a tyrannical organization that's run by 2 people who are accountable to nobody, and the elected people are nothing but pawns and figureheads. They can't do anything at all unless the dictator lets them. And that's how the NRA is set up. So when you say you can change them, how are you going to change them? You could vote for everybody. Like I said, that's perfect. And they can say, we're going to vote to fire Wayne LaPierre. And he can say, nope, I won't let you. And they can't fire him. Do you guys get that yet? So, and I don't mean you guys in my chat. I mean the people that keep saying, hey, you know, we can change them. The best way is to get active. And there's this movement now going on, the stream that's on Tuesday nights that talks about this a lot. And they say, hey, what we need to do to fix the NRA is more people need to join it, okay, and give it more money so that we can vote the people in that we want. But you can vote the people in that you want, and they can have a perfect voting record, and it still means nothing because this is a tyrannical organization, and there is 2 dictators running it, and there's nothing the members can do to stop them. That's where I have the exception to like I said, other streams where they sit and talk about it constantly. Just give them more money. Why? So they can take more of my rights away? Because historically, the bigger they've gotten, the more money they've been given, the more rights they take away. So I'm going to look at history. I mean, how long of a sampling do you guys need? That's what I want to tell some of these other people who are out here supporting the NRA. I just gave you guys 150 years of examples. 150 years. What, do we need to go another 150 years? Do we need to wait 300 years of gun control where that flintlock that Charlton Heston held up, where that's all we're allowed to have? And even in that case, you have to keep your flint locked up in one compartment, and then at the police department, you can have your musket balls locked up, and with written permission note from your mom to get your flints, and then a written permission slip from the chief of police Then you can convene to the state-approved range that you have to go in and take a DNA test, and then you can fire your flintlock. And then you know what's going to be in the American Rifleman? Hey, keep donating, keep joining, guys, because they're coming after your flints. They will ban flint, which is a natural stone, by the way. They will ban flint if you don't re-up, if you don't become a life member. Is that literally how far we need to let it go? I mean, come on. If we haven't been able to change them in 150 years, why are we trying to change them now? Why are you trying to change the NRA? Well, obviously, it doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm not trying to change the NRA. I'm saying ditch the NRA. I'm going to call them out on their BS. They are BS. They're traitors. They're enemies of the Second Amendment. They should not exist anymore. They should fail. And the only thing that's going to make them fail is if we quit and don't give them one more penny. Again, until these guys get corrupt, if they do, and I hope they never do, I'm going to support them, Gun Owners of America. I don't have a sticker for them, but I'm going to support Firearms Policy Coalition. Many, many other state and local groups too, that I'm sure are just as good, if not even better. But you know what? If you guys want one that's pretty easy to access, go to gunowners.org. Of course, I don't work for them. Of course, I don't get a penny. I'm not even monetized on YouTube, guys. I'm just literally doing this just because I don't want to go down without a fight. You know, I want to talk about this stuff and let people know that just because you like guns has nothing to do with the actual battle we have right now. Dianne Feinstein owns guns. There's that famous picture of Obama shooting skeet. He's shot guns before. All these people own guns. Okay? Just because you own guns does not mean whatsoever that you're pro-gun rights. And the guns are great. I love the guns, of course. And just like I've often said, you should be able to collect postage stamps if you want. You should be able to collect guns. Look. Guns are awesome, guys. But should I have to have a restricted magazine in a gun that's been around essentially since the 1930s? I think not. So that's the thing, guys. There's a big distinction here where people are starting to say stuff like, well, can't we all just get along? Sure, I'd love to get along with everyone. Well, how are we going to get along? Well, the fact that we both like guns means we're going to get along. Okay. Well, is this person that also likes guns, are they going to support the NRA? Are they going to support compromise? Do they have a different definition of shall not be infringed than I do? If you have a different definition of shall not be infringed, if you're supporting the NRA and thinking if we give them more money, they're going to change, after looking at 150 years of history, okay, and you're willing to compromise and say, well, if they come take our guns, I'm not going to necessarily help them, but I'm not really going to stop them either, which has been said very recently in another stream, just to let you guys know. I'm sorry, but you're not in my community. You can call yourself gun community all you want. Well, I'm in the Second Amendment community. And to me, being a Second Amendment supporter, yes, it's about the guns, of course, just as a tool. But you know what? Being a plumber isn't about what kind of pipe wrench you have, what kind of snake you have in the truck. You could give a school bus driver a snake and he wouldn't even know what to do with it, right? So it's not just about the tools you have. It's about your heart, where you're at, what you actually believe in. And yes, this gun's a tool, but without the Second Amendment, this is nothing. So you can sit there and donate to an organization that's literally, they'll take this from you if they think that that's going to get them more rights. And then what? Then what are you going to do? Then you're going to have to get an inferior tool and keep getting inferior tools and just hoping they won't get it down to where by the time it's said and done, that this is the best you got. So, no, I guess I'm not a gun guy then. If me being a gun guy means that I have to accept, okay, the activism and the compromising of our rights away of everyone else that owns a gun, then guess what? Just count me out. I'm not a member of your community. I don't want to be a gun guy if that's what it means that I have to accept. If I have to accept the compromise and capitulation, okay, of all these people that just simply since I own guns, I have stake in the game. No, you don't. Owning guns has nothing to do with gun rights. Owning guns has nothing to do with liberty and the Bill of Rights and freedom. And that's truly how I believe. So for all those people that say, well, hold on a minute, look, it's not that I'm going to be purposely mean to people, but I'm not going to compromise myself and say, okay, you believe all we should own is a double barrel shotgun. And we both own guns, so we're part of this community, right? This is what people are suggesting. So how about this, guys? Now, I think I'm an AK guy, okay? I'm an AK guy. You're a, let's just say, because I have it here, you're a Browning high power guy. Since we're both like-minded now, I'll give this up. I'll give this up because you hate it. But here's the thing. If you give that up, I'll give my AK up. But so we can get along and be friends, will you please let me have this? And then they're like, okay, you can have that. Well, you know what? This gun's freaking awesome, by the way, if you want to talk about guns and gun collecting. But what would you rather take into a fight if you had to preserve your liberty? Okay? If, and I hope this never happens in my lifetime, but if the Tree of Liberty had to be refreshed with the blood of time, regardless if it pisses this guy off or not. Because just the fact that he likes guns has nothing to do with whether he's fighting the fight I am or not, whatsoever. And for people to feel guilty and say, well, hold on a minute. Since you like guns, you have to deal with the, again, compromise. Backroom dealings of all these supposed gun owners? Hell no. And then they say, well, hold on a minute. Don't you want them on your side? No, actually not. If someone's holding this gun in one hand and saying, take away my gun out of my hands, they're not in my community. They're actually my enemy. Everything they can to take what I perceive that I need to preserve liberty and to start going 45 miles an hour down the road. Why? I mean, we're still friends, but don't get me wrong. I'm going to push you out. How the heck are we friends? So you're going to take something from me that I may need to defend my family from, let's just say, from it. You're going to take that from me, but you're still going to say we need to be friends? No, 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 no. That's the definition of an enemy. So using this figuratively because there's no war going on. We are going to war right now. And we are going to try to debate. But we're going to get every single traitor and loyalist to sit down in the neck. What good is he to fight? So that's where my whole thing is. If you're wanting to literally compromise and capitulate to organizations who have been taking away my gun rights for the last 150 years, and then you want to call me out and say I'm not being inclusive enough for you, I don't want you. I'm sorry, but I really don't. We can be civil to each other, like fight each other. It's only 10 years, so we can get more dues. No, you're not my friends. I'm going to move on away from you. You better just stay out of my way, because if you get in my way, you might get caught in the crossfire. You guys know what I'm saying? We're against Nancy Pelosi. We're against Dianne Feinstein. We're against Ocasio-Cortez, however you say her name. Bernie Sanders. Those are the people that are after our guns. And I hate to say it, the NRA. Because I said I was buffering. I don't know if I'm back yet. I can still chat to you guys while I'm buffering, which obviously if my old red, white, and blue brings up a good point. To put it bluntly, he's basically essentially saying what it's been taking me a half hour to say. If you support red flag laws, you are not pro Second Amendment, period. End of story. Now, I don't know if you're still in here or not, old red, white, and blue, but let me ask you another question. So let's base that as our premise. And, I'd like to get his answer, and anyone else, by the way, please chime in on this. So if you support red flag amendment, you're not pro Second Amendment, right? Well, more minutes when I say that. All right, I'm gonna see here. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I was asking you guys a question. So if you support Fred, one of the commenters here, I'm trying to remember his name now because again I got so rudely interrupted by, I guess we'll say YouTube or the internet or whatever. Again, not my internet, but look, I'm just gonna say I guess YouTube. I don't know. Who cares, right? They're the only ones that let me stream, so whatever. I will thank them for that. At least they're giving me a little bit of censorship streaming abilities here. Anyways, I'm sorry. That was my lame attempt at trying to be funny after talking about the NRA all night. Anyway, someone said, if you support red flag laws, you're not pro-Second Amendment. I couldn't agree more. Now, here's the question for you all. And you support the NRA, are you a Second Amendment supporter? So in other words, can you still call yourself a Second Amendment supporter while you are supporting an organization that's against the Second Amendment? Don't even fully use. Like, if you guys remember the federal government, so that's a perfect example of what you were talking about, GameCuber. So I'm buffering again now. Keep buffering just constantly and not stop buffering. I guess I'm probably end the stream here. Well, continuing the stream. Not that I want to give up. It's just, what's the point? I don't want to waste y'all's time, and I don't know. So we'll see. If I'm going to keep buffering, there's no point of continuing the stream because I'm just wasting you guys' time, and I don't want to do that. But I don't know if you guys heard me say this because I was buffering, but like GameCuber said, yes, you can call it, you be lying. And that's where, you know, like I said, I was in the audience of another stream that's supposedly a gun channel, and who is a gun for 150 years, and I see nothing other than proof that they're going to continue to be anti-gun. So I just can't quite understand how you can claim that you're, you know, a Second Amendment or gun person per se. And see, that's really where the big problem is here, guys, is we keep on confusing the difference between someone who likes guns versus a Second Amendment supporter. And it's taken me a while to realize this, but I mean, I've always kind of known it, but right now it's just getting more apparent than ever that there's a lot of Fudds out there. And there's lots of Fudds out there. And I use the word Fudd. And that's the other thing, too, lately. Some people are coming out saying, you can't use the word Fudd. I'm going to use the word Fudd. You know why? Because the people that are telling me I can't use the word Fudd, they're basically the Fudds. Just to call a spade a spade. When you sit there and tell me, like, oh, you know, can't we just start off with that we all have something in common, that we like guns? Again, when it comes to Second Amendment rights, whether we have guns or not has nothing to do with the Second Amendment whatsoever. So let's just say this, for example. Somebody that's blind and can't see, they can't read from the printing press, right? So does that mean they're not a proponent of the First Amendment? Well, of course they could be. And of course they most likely are. So just to say all of a sudden that just because you have something or don't have something doesn't mean that you're a supporter, that's bull crap. You know, people that say, oh, well, I own a training company, so I have more clout than you because you don't do shooting videos. Bullcrap. Who cares how good of a shot you are? Do you know how good of a shot most of the SS were that were killing people and confiscating all the guns in Germany? So I don't care what your background is. You could own a training. You could be a veteran. Okay? And you could make an oath. And I appreciate almost all the veterans. But just because you're a vet doesn't mean that you can sit there and tell me how I'm supposed to view the Second. And you guys might not agree with me, but I think if we can agree on one thing, I'll use some of their terminology that different communities amongst us, and they're not the same communities. The gun rights community is not the same people that own guns. So I'm sick and tired of people trying to say, well, we all like guns, so that's something we can start in common, and we can convince the other side. You know, that'd be like going into a Duramax diesel forum and telling all the Power Stroke guys, hey, we both own trucks, so now you have to admit the Duramax is better than the Power Stroke. Are you kidding me? That's not going to happen. It's the same thing. I mean, that was kind of a trite example. I get that, but the fact of the matter is people are trying to have this whole separate argument. They're trying to basically say, look, just because I own guns, just because I was in the armed services, blah, 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 that means I have clout now, and is that you need to support the NRA. And I just don't see where any of it's connected. I'm not taking away anything from your collection. It's awesome to collect. I'm not taking anything away from your service. That's awesome too. I'm only trying to make the point that these aren't direct correlations with each other. None of these things prove that you're pro-Second Amendment or that you're pro-liberty or you're pro-Bill of Rights. What does prove something to me is if you continue to keep supporting an organization that has been pro-gun control time and time and time again, and currently as we speak, I mean, there's lawsuits going on, but we only have 40 days. And if these lawsuits can't somehow win in the next month, we have to turn in or destroy our bump stocks. Okay? So this is happening right this minute. And I just got done reading to you guys excerpts from articles that are citing all of the gun control that the NRA has either written or endorsed or both for about 150 years. So I just don't get it. How can you again as somebody said earlier, I think it was GameCuber, you can call yourself whatever you want. And that's great. That is the great thing about our country. We have words, we have speech. You can say whatever you want, and that's great. But look at who you're actually supporting. Look at the walk you're actually walking. And I don't know. I wish some of the people I'm referring to would come into my stream and talk to me, and I'd call them out name. I'm not going to use their name. They called me out yesterday in their stream, in the chat, and on the air. They used my name and said, well, this guy says this, and and then they said some people definition of what shall not infringe means and what Glock shooter 7, which is fine. I was in their chat, so I have no problem with them calling out my name. That's awesome that they did. I appreciate them calling out my name. I'm not going to call out their name because they're not here, but like I said, there's another chat that's been going on a lot, and they've been doing a lot of videos basically saying, hey, look, guys like me that are saying, look, I'm pro Second Amendment. And just because you're pro-gun doesn't mean you're on my side. They're saying I'm negative to the gun rights thing. They say by me calling out the NRA, okay, and just citing matter-of-fact instances of them supporting and writing gun control measures, that I'm the negative one to the Second Amendment. Or I'm the negative one to the gun community, is what they actually say. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I'm negative to the gun community. Well, you know what? The gun community isn't what I'm talking about right now. Look, I've done streams for 3 hours. I did a stream for 3 hours, and it's actually, for my gun streams, I think one of my best ones. If you're interested in Yugoslavian AKs, I did almost 3 hours showing tons of variants, okay, of Yugoslavian AKs, which is an awesome video, and I'm really glad I have it in my library. And if you guys are interested in Yugo AKs, go check it out. There's a lot of information in there, a lot of examples that you can look at. That's awesome, right? But just by me doing that video doesn't mean, just because I showed you guys I have a lot of Yugo AKs to show, on the screen, doesn't mean that I'm pro Second Amendment. And that's what I don't get. These people keep wanting to blur the line saying, oh, well, we all have guns, so we all have to get along, and we can't offend anybody. So here's what their argument is. Look, all gun owners are on the same side to fight the Second Amendment. And if I call anyone that owns a gun a FUD, then I'm alienating people, right, from my cause, which my cause is, look, here's my cause. It's real simple. It isn't my cause. Stand up for the original cause that founded this country, right? Liberty, the pursuit of happiness, okay? Us being endowed by our Creator certain unalienable rights that are given to us by God. That's my cause. And it's not my cause. That's just what I'm supporting. So, for people to sit there and say, well, we're all the same. You alienated a guy that owns a gun, so you're anti-Second Amendment. No, I'm not. Not if that guy was anti-Second Amendment himself. Okay? Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Or am I buffering so bad that nobody can hear me? Who knows? I think what's happening is I came back and I'm online again, but now there's like this 5-minute delay. Because I'm on my streaming window right now, and then I have another video opened up, another window opened up that's showing it like from the viewer standpoint. And it looks like it's 5 minutes behind. So that kind of sucks. So basically anything you guys say in the chat, like, is something I said 5 minutes ago, because I guess because of YouTube reasons. Anyways, I saw some new faces in here today, which was kind of cool, Glad to meet new people and hang out with new people in here. Idaho Rogers, USMC.